Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of eDiscovery After Hours. My guest this week is Joey Seeber of Level Legal. This is an episode I've been looking forward to for a long time. I have a lot of respect for how Joey has built his company. Joey and his team have built their company and how he talks about it on LinkedIn. For those of you who follow him, you know he's got this great way of blending personal experiences or things that happen and relating them to how you build a business and serve clients. And I just think it's fantastic. He's got a great variety of perspectives, having been practicing at a law firm, buying a business, being in public service, building this great company that he's with now. So anyway, this is a great episode, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Our sponsor is Discovery Master. When you have multiple document review projects going on in Relativity, whether they're all hosted within the same large instance, or you have projects that are hosted across the globe in different data centers in Relativity Server, in Rel 1, and you're looking for one place to log in and track all of those projects to figure out, when is a project going to be done? What are the key documents? How are we doing on the budget? Who are the good and bad reviewers? Check out www.discoverymaster.co. Thanks for tuning in.
Quick time!
You don't know how to drink, your whole generation.
Drinks on the house.
Yes, sir.
No, wait a second. Drinks are 50% off.
Right.
No, wait a second. Double the price of everything.
And I work only 16 hours a day.
A union man only works 8 hours a day.
I belong to 2 unions.
And now, eDiscovery After Hours with your host, Ryan Short.
All right, Joey Seeber, cheers. Welcome to eDiscovery After Hours.
Cheers to you. Thank you.
What are we working on here?
Basil Hayden bourbon.
And it's delicious. I just realizing how gross mine looks because I've got those fake rocks with the frozen ones, instead of ice. So I held it up.
Yeah,
I'm like, that doesn't look appetizing.
Rather dark.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a custom drink.
It's the dark version.
Yeah, and you were just saying off camera that you guys can't get these. Are you Dallas area, you said?
Dallas area. I'm in Tyler right now, East Texas, but we're close to Dallas. And Dallas, the bars in Dallas in the first quarter of this year mostly didn't have Basil Hayden shortage, I guess. So I could get it in the store, but the bartenders couldn't get it. So who knows?
I'm glad to give you an excuse to get it off the cabinet then.
I appreciate it very much.
All right. Well, so Joey, you have got a really varied background. I've had quite a few folks on here who have been on one or more sides of the e-discovery space, right? Maybe they were a litigator and are now, running a shop, or they were in-house and now they're at a service provider or whatever. You cover just about every base in the industry and then some. So, I want to walk, kind of through your background to the degree that we can. But first, I'll ask if there's a connective tissue, because you practiced law, ran a company, became the mayor of a mid-sized city, and then started a company. Do I have that correct?
Pretty much. You left a couple things out, but this is a shorter podcast. So yes, you're right.
Okay. So is there a connective thread that runs between those things, aside from the fact that you just may be a Renaissance man or have ADD?
Well, the latter is certainly true. There is a connective tissue. After many hours of therapy, I figured that out. That's only partially a joke. The connective tissue is I enjoy leading teams toward a goal. And making a difference along the way.
Yeah.
And that can be in business, it can be in government, it can be in the nonprofit sector. But I want to leave a mark, and I like marshaling, convening, and leading teams to do so. That's the connective tissue.
So was the practice of law always a design in your background, or was it a surprise to you that you left it so quickly?
Both. So I graduated with a degree in entrepreneurship, a BBA from Baylor University, and then I didn't quite know what that meant or what I was going to do with it. I went to law school thinking I would practice law, and I practiced law for about 4 years. I did not like it at all. The best way I know to put it, I work with some wonderful people. So that's not what I mean by this statement. But what I meant by the statement is I didn't see anybody that I was practicing with at the firm that I wanted to grow up to be like.
Sure.
Not because they weren't, I miss those people, just working with them, but I didn't want what they had in terms of in a professional career. And so I began to noodle about what it was. And for me, it was, there were too many columns, if you will, or that I didn't have control over. I was an associate, so I didn't have real control there. I'm working for an insurance company at that time. I was working for an insurance company who paid the bills, and then I was working for the client that I was duty bound to represent, and then also my employer. Those were three different duties and or obligations over which I had very little control. And for me, that span was too wide. I needed more control in the best of ways, I think. And so that, in addition to the fact that in the area that I was practicing at the time, we were doing good work, but there was no, it couldn't have been farther from what I was trained to do at Baylor Law School, which is very practical, trial oriented. It was really paperwork. It was discovery. And it was not a lot of fun. And so I just couldn't, even in the best of circumstances, most of my life was going to be spent doing that. I didn't like it, so I got out.
Interesting. And then you went on LinkedIn. I think the next stop is Tyler Transmissions or something to that effect. And it sounds like maybe there are some intermediate steps that aren't there, but
I worked briefly for a family business, very briefly, and then I bought a business. What every lawyer who doesn't really fit practicing law does, I went and bought a transmission shop, Ryan, a transmission repair shop.
Now that on paper looks like a hard left turn. How did that happen? Aside from the fact that we know you weren't on the path that you wanted to be on, you start looking for something where you can maintain control. There's a million kinds of businesses out there. I mean, were you a gearhead? Did you grow up restoring vehicles, racing vehicles, or was this just I'm having a Basil Hayden at a bar and this guy next to me says he's selling a shop and I think I could do that?
I've never to this day changed my own oil, Ryan. Certainly not a gearhead. It was necessity and an opportunity. The working in the family business did not work out well at all. I needed to do something quickly, and I was looking for a business to buy. And this was a business for sale. That's about 75% of it right there. A good opportunity, good somebody who was trying to get out of it. And, dumb, confident, not many options. You pick one. By that time I had 2 young children and a family to support. And that's what I ended up doing.
So,
hard left turn, Ryan, hard left turn.
So my mind is racing a million different ways because before I landed at my current job, I was also looking at buying a business. And at the time I had 3 young children and for a variety of reasons, I didn't make I didn't take the leap, right? Obviously I'm sitting here talking to you today. I mean, there's so much that goes into the whole process of vetting opportunities and lining up financing and getting from A to Z. So kudos to you in making the leap, but you're still not done. And I know that we're skipping pretty quickly along these topics, but
yeah, no problem.
There's a lot to
some of them we'd like to skip quickly through.
You're practicing law, you buy a business, and then you decide, you know what, I want even more, either stress or
Variety.
variety. Yeah. Right. And you decide I'm going to run for public office. And for those who don't know, Tyler, Texas, that is not a stoplight and a map dot with, a few hundred people. And this is a ceremonial position and it's run by town council. I mean, this is a bigger city than where I grew up. And this is a real deal full-time gig. So talk about how you came to the position where you thought, hey, I think it's time for me to really throw my hat in the ring and go full bore into this.
Excuse me. I'll abbreviate the story. I was also involved in kind of local politics at the time while I was doing the other stuff. And there was a city council race that where we have term limits here. And there was an opportunity to run for city council. A couple of people approached me and said, I think we'd like for you to run for the city council. I heard something one time. I had a political consultant tell me one time, it really only takes one or two people to talk somebody into running for an office, and 100 can't talk them out of it. That's probably true. And so I was young and, politically involved, and a couple of people who are involved in local city politics said, if you'd like to run now would be a good time. Here's why. And what it really had to do with is they did not like the other guy running. Okay. And so I was the guy they put up. And so I said, well, sure. So once my name was on the ballot and I realized who this other person was and how much money he had, I think I would have to work my ass off to do this. And so I knocked on 3,500 doors in my district over about a 3-month period and was outspent 3-1. And I got 72% of the vote for the city council seat. Wow. Served on the city council while I also owned that transmission shop. Then I sold the transmission shop and was still on the council. Again, term limits. We had term limits also for the mayor's seat. And so it just coincidentally, our terms aligned. So when I was finished with my council seat by municipal code, the mayor's seat was open. We were doing some good things. He was a great mayor, went on to be our state senator, now is chairman of the UT Board of Regents. And so I was elected mayor then in 2002. And look, the economy was great city council, super city managers. And we cut property tax. We did some great things. It was really fun. Again, I love working with a team. It was great to work with the council. And we accomplished some super things, and it was a ton of fun. So I have a passion for public service. I enjoyed politics at the time because as a local, we don't run by party. And so everybody is trying to do something good. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I was going to come back. You hinted on the I like to lead, which is at the beginning we asked about the connective tissue, right? You talked about that, building that team. And so as you look back, and this is all prior to what you're doing now, right? Having started, I believe you founded Level, correct? After getting out of office.
One of the founders, that's correct.
Right. So even prior to that business and in all of these 3 lives, you're building these teams, you're communicating these goals. Did you find as you progressed even and went through different areas, certainly as a mayor, the level of scrutiny that you deal with from the outside and therefore the countervailing confidence that you have to have in yourself, it's like a balance sheet, right? These things have to equal out or else you're going to self-destruct in one way or the other. Right. Is that something that you had to develop over time, or have you naturally been able to kind of compartmentalize pieces of stress or feedback or knowing how to build a team that complements your weaknesses?
That's a great question. I never thought of it quite that way. I think that, people stress manifests itself in different ways, or stress is created in different ways. And for me, going back to the question about practicing law, I'm able to handle, if not thrive, on external stress as long as I have a certain amount of control over the inputs or over the reaction. So what was stressful about practicing law to me is that I didn't really have much control over these factors in which I was working. But whether it was buying a business that I didn't know that much about, I could control. There were things I could control that were less stressful for me. And the same is true in serving in public office. As long as I was able to run on my own and make the decisions and assemble the team and, push us toward a goal, I'm fairly confident in my ability to do that. It's when there are things outside of my control that exist that stress me. So I think it's a developed skill, but there's probably, I don't know if it's natural or who knows, nature, nurture. I don't know. I loved the environment of serving in public office with a great team. And we had tons of things come up. You have, police shootings or, people upset about their property taxes, or not, in our case, not property taxes, rezonings or annexations or, whatever. There are ways to deal with that, right? There are ways to manage that and deal with it. And I was fairly comfortable doing that.
Excellent. So then you come to the point where you're I assume term limited out of office, right?
Was in 2008.
Okay. So that leads us up essentially to what you're doing today. So you've now had 3 different careers at this point. You're still a fairly young guy, right? You've been in a law firm, you've run a business, you've been in public office, and now you're thinking, all right, I have a fairly broad set of applicable skills. I've got a pretty good network, and now I've got to look out and figure out what in the world comes next. And so you start, you're one of the founders of Level Legal. And the way that you first hit my radar, Joey, was about a year ago on LinkedIn. You had this post about an office of yours that was like a personal time capsule. And I was so struck by you looped in world events, personal, family meanings. You referenced, one of your children at the time who was the same age as one of my children now. And it just hit me in this really impactful way. And I thought about, sitting in that literal or kind of, metaphorical room, taking stock and figuring out what's next. So of all the opportunities that you had on your plate, how is it that you decided that this was the next leap you were going to take in launching Level?
Yeah, that time capsule was not coincident with starting Level Legal, but it's a great metaphorical question of how did you decide to do this? What happened was it was an opportunity that came. I had finished my term in office in 2008. I had another business in between. And it was a truck parts business, a provider. When I owned the transmission shop, we bought parts from this local truck parts business. We don't have to talk about all that, but that's what kept income. I didn't get paid for being mayor. But I had more time because I'd learned to manage being mayor and also running that business. And how we started Level Legal was my good friend Eric Finley was thinking about leaving a law firm where he was and starting his own firm. And I knew that he had this little group of lawyers that were doing some kind of work on a contract basis. That's about all I knew. And he wanted me to join his law firm because he was going to go on his own. And he called me, I will never forget, in October of 2008, and asked me if I would do this. And I said, man, I left practicing law for a reason, and I'm not going back. But tell me about this little team. What are they doing again? Because I knew they were generating a good bit of income for him. Eric and I are good friends. And he said, well, they're reviewing documents. I said, well, what does that mean? Well, it's for discovery. You do remember discovery, don't you? Of course I remember discovery, Eric. He said, well, okay, everything is digital now. Unlike when you practice law, got it. Nothing goes away. Got it. And we've got to figure out what to produce. Those are the only dots I needed connected. Like, oh, okay. Let's talk a little bit more about it. We talked a little bit more about it. And so I said, look, Eric, here's the thing. I really don't want to practice law. If you need me to help with something, I'm happy to. I can't imagine what that would be, honestly. But let's form a company out of this little team and see what we can do with it. And that's what we did. So we started with one client, one project, and everybody else at the company knew more, much like the transmission shop, Ryan. Everybody else at the company knew way more about what was going on than I did, but I can learn pretty fast. And we just wanted to get another client and another client and another project. That was 13 years ago, 13 plus. And here we are.
I love that. So, and we're getting to the point where I want to turn around and tee up an opportunity for you to talk a little bit more about, what you guys are doing, or cast light on something that needs attention or constructive criticism. But before we get there, there was another post on LinkedIn that you had about a program called Traction and EOS. And you may not remember this because this had to be about a year ago, probably. And I sent you a note afterwards on LinkedIn. Sure, yeah. And it was like, hey, you've no reason to know who I am or what I do, but I was working at a small company that used EOS, and I just thought, where has this been my whole career? Because the way what it does to me is it articulates things that I had previously intuited. The things you couldn't quite put your finger on, or it validates things that you had kind of built yourself and thinking this would probably work. And the world is so small because after leaving that company, I was getting my MBA, and one of my professors is a private equity guy who bought that company from Gino Wickman.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding me.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
So,
well, I've got some suggestions for him, but that's for another day.
Yeah, I'll hook you guys up offline. I'd be curious to hear you say, and this is the way you can bridge into, from what I'm about to ask, then into talking more about level. But, you've talked about building a team and building a vision. And, we've talked about building a team that complements your weaknesses a little bit. So I'm curious to hear about your experience with implementing Traction, and maybe you could just give kind of a synopsis for those who may not know what it is. How did you guys become aware of this program, and what have been the fruits of implementing it?
Well, first of all, EOS Traction is a platform. It's a system. EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. And what it does is provide some structure for those who have small, medium, large, or growing businesses to operate. And so you start very basically by, what are your core values? What is your mission, vision? Where do you want to be in 10 years? And when you implement the various parts of the wheel in Traction, you have your processes down, your people, your vision and values, your metrics, and you have regular meetings to keep track of all of them. It provides structure. Because let's think about this for just a second and face it. Many entrepreneurs, many people who start businesses either benefit or suffer from the same thing that I do. And that is, you have a vision, you have a great idea, and so that part, that's a gift or something that you have. Those people are not necessarily process people who know then how to make the trains run on time. It's those kinds of details sometimes that we're missing. That's certainly true of me. And so for me, EOS and Traction has been a great template on which to build a business. I know that I've got to take care of these things or we're going to be in trouble. So it provides a system, an operating system that we can jump into and all share. And that has been tremendously beneficial to us. How did I learn about it? I'm in Vistage. I'm in a Vistage CEO group, and my Vistage leader is our coach. His name is Ed Burke, and he's in Dallas. And Ed is every year one of the top Vistage chairs, and then also does consulting on the side. So he's our coach to help us get through Traction.
Yeah, it's a fantastic program. So kudos to you guys for implementing it. I know there's one or two other e-discovery shops that I'm aware of that are, and I just can't say enough about it. So my goal is to get Discovery Master to the size where we need to implement it.
So you can do it right now.
that's right. So tell the folks a little bit about Level Legal, who you guys are, what you do, and what do we need to know about you?
Yep, we are Level Legal is an e-discovery company. Our mission is to surprise with remarkable delight. You'll notice that says nothing about e-discovery or legal. And we want to delight. We want to bring peace of mind to the legal professional. What does that mean? That means we work for law firms, people at law firms, and corporate legal departments, e-discovery and managed review, privacy investigation, compliance, and those areas. And what we have found is that our core values and our mission happen to align with what's happening in the market today. And what's happening in the market today is consolidation. And the thing that a lot of people don't want to talk about is the decline in service levels that is happening in consolidation. I don't care who you are, unless you've got your head under a rock, unless you're living under a rock, you know that with the rapid consolidation that's happening in our industry, people are frustrated, clients are frustrated, and they're so frustrated that they are seeking other alternatives. It used to be that we would have to go prospect and find them, and we still do, but we now have them coming to us. And we have their talent coming to us because they're so frustrated. Our mission to surprise with remarkable delight happens to align with what's happening in our industry. And so I spend 50% of my time in recruiting today, looking for the best leaders that we can find. And there are a lot of them who are coming from a lot of the bigger shops because they just want to do what they love to do and not worry about if they're going to get cut in the next roll up. And so we're finding a lot of opportunity there, and I've never had more fun in the business.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Joey, I could pull a lot more threads out of your shop and your background, but I'd better let you go so I don't keep you here the rest of the night. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It's absolutely fantastic to hear a little bit about you and Level, and thanks so much.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a delight.
All right.
Cheers.